What is up, everybody? Happy Monday. BobbyFi with my man, Eric Sheets Haber. I'm coming off of a no DFS weekend myself. The good thing is in a week, I'm going to be out there with Sheets and we're actually going to get to hang out a little bit, which is going to be beautiful in New York. And I know I'm meeting up with some of the people in our Discord as well. If you guys are around, hit me up. Well, maybe I can meet you for a drink or something like that. But yeah, I'll be out in New York for a little while and traveling with the family, but also working. So yeah, it should be a good time. And as far as DFS goes, we'll get into the MLB slate. Sheets, how was your weekend with with DFS, and give us a little update?
Yeah, MLB. I had a pretty good slate. Yes, it was yesterday, the day before. I forget now. Where I finished, I think it was the top 10 or something in the lottery tournament on only 20 lineups, and got like fourth in a qualifier. Had some good stuff going on. I chopped the NASCAR tournament. I'll tell you, I don't have a lot of time to play on the weekends, but I actually have a little more time on the weekends than some people. So what's good about it is that the stuff I play, like the NASCAR and the MMA and the stuff on the golf, whatever, on the weekends, you don't have to really track it. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to like be on top of scratches, because this MMA, because MMA and golf, and not golf, but NASCAR and all that stuff, it doesn't really change too much, and it's like a really short sweat for some of those, so it's cool. And baseball, it was actually a pretty decent weekend. Also, just so you guys know, I put up well, it's going to be up tomorrow, like a video on how to use the sheets, because a lot of people have been asking me. So I'm putting that up there. Hopefully, we'll link that to future iterations of it. NBA. Yeah, maybe we'll talk about the NBA, what happened last night with Jokic when we talk about the NBA. So let's do the MLB.
Yeah, let's get into MLB, and then we'll definitely get into that. If you want to pull your screen up, we can start going game by game. It's by the way, on Friday, it was the last time I played. I actually did really well in the NBA again. I almost won the Monster. Ended up finishing.
Oh, really?
Sixth. I ended up finishing sixth. I was second, and
wow.
It was expired. Time was over. And then I looked back and I ended up sixth. So there must have been a stat correction of some sort that cost me a little bit. But it wasn't about. It was still another good run. It saved me from a bad baseball day on Friday. But yeah, I mean, it's this is a another one of the big slates, and it's going to be really, really. I think it's going to be heavy concentrated chalk in one spot, obviously in Colorado, and I think we can try and find other places to maybe make some things happen. So. For any overall slate thoughts before we jump in?
I do, actually. First of all, whenever there's a Coors slate, it's an interesting slate, right? Because do you want to play it or do you not want to play it? Whenever you have like a good hitting team going to Colorado, it's extra interesting because that's even more of from a raw points perspective, right? More of a lock to kind of get there, right? So it makes the ownership even higher. At least for this one, they priced them up, right? So it's not like everybody can play them,
right?
The other thing that's interesting about this slate, it's funny, it coincides with when I was building my video. People ask, what kind of a difference between your rankings means that somebody's a lock versus where it's close. And it's funny, I picked today to do a video because even with respect to pitching, I think there's different things that you can do, and I'm going to be playing guys maybe that might not be guys I usually play, and I might play several lineups here because if you want to play, first of all, you want to play Padres, all right? You just can't go chalk, and I don't think price allows you to go chalk. Maybe. Right. I mean, we'll talk about that. But I think it's an interesting slate, so may as well just plow in.
Yeah, let's jump right in. I totally agree. To me, it's a very interesting slate. And starting off with the first game, I think that you have a good complementary stack, I guess I would say, or what do you want to call it, secondary, however you want to put it. I think that there's arguments for both these teams, but I especially think the Pittsburgh side at these prices is an interesting way if you were going to make a Coors stack. I think Brian Reynolds is one of the best plays on this slate. I think Stallings at catcher, even at 4K, is a little bit it's high, but it's great. And then you could fill it out with the Eric Gonzalez's. It's not the most exciting thing. You want to do maybe a 3-man here, 4-man, but I do think especially Brian Reynolds. But overall, I definitely like Pittsburgh as a mini secondary complementary stack, maybe to the Coors thing if you're going to go that route.
couldn't agree with you more. I have Pittsburgh ranked as like my top quote unquote value stack, right? They're like super duper cheap. And if you're going to, for example, like when would you use a team like Pittsburgh? Well, number one, as Bobby perfectly said, is a complementary stack to San Diego, or if you want to double pay up for pitching, let's say you wanted to do like Last Now Lynn or something like that, or you know, whatever, then well, that would be the example. Then you could even run a 5-man there. And then what you do if you run a 5 or a 4-man there with Pittsburgh, that's not the greatest, but then you could get like these crazy one-offs. You know what I mean? Like you could play like Tatis, for example, you know, or you could play like Machado, or you can, you know what I mean? So so you can even make San Diego like kind of a complementary to Pittsburgh, right? If you double paid up. I will add, by the way, to the list of the kind of standouts. I don't know if he even gets in, but Phillip Evans at 2,500.
Yeah, 100% Phillip Evans.
Yeah, and he's multi-position eligible, I think, on both sides. I think first base, outfield on DraftKings, he might be different on fan. I don't know, but there are a couple of them, like Frazier might be double eligible, whatever. So these Pittsburgh guys are going to be in play. I didn't quite get to Washington. You mentioned it's possible you might like a little of them. By the way, I skipped over. I didn't like either the pitching, but I think Pittsburgh is definitely just firmly in play.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm not interested in either of the pitching, but I do think that I like Pittsburgh quite a bit. I think you want to take, I just want to emphasize again that a guy like Brian Reynolds, because Lester's gotten a little bit better with his, better is a very strange word with his holding runners on. It's partly he's gotten better because he's giving up home runs earlier. But he's still, you can run on him still. He's allowed, 2 stolen bases in his last 3 starts. But again, the only reason he didn't probably allow more was that they were hitting him pretty hard, and honestly, it was doubles, and they didn't need him as much. The stolen bases, and it was teams like the Rays who don't run as often. But I do think Brian Reynolds is if you're starting a cash game lineup today, I think that Brian Reynolds is like a cash game play. I don't know where his ownership is, but I think he and Phillip Evans stand out especially. And then on the Washington side, I'm probably not going to get to them like you just mentioned, but I'm always just going to say that like, anytime you have Coors on the slate, you're going to get a 1% owned guy like Soto, who's always a 2-home run threat. It's just kind of interesting to do it from a game theory aspect. One of the, maybe the best hitter, one of the top 6 hitters in baseball, and no one's going to play him. So that's the only thing I would throw about Washington.
You want to move ahead?
Yeah, let's do the Chicago, New York. I really want to pick on Jake Arrieta. Okay. Like I've watched this guy pitch, and I know he had a good outing last time out. I think that there's more flukiness involved in that. He's given up so much hard contact, so many home runs. You can run all over him. It's not the best lineup that he's facing with this Mets team. And it's kind of sad, by the way, because, Jacob deGrom has really become the best pitcher in baseball. And I don't think we can even argue about it anymore. And I sort of just have to default that and just not take the L. I've always said deGrom is one of the top 5 pitchers, but I've always sort of been a Scherzer guy, another thing. Anyway, but it's sad for him that this team isn't a little bit better. I do think that we can try and pick on Arrieta, though, here with guys like, I think Lindor, who's actually, in general, even when he's making outs lately, has been better at the plate than he was to start the season. I think that obviously Alonso is always in play. But those outside of those guys, I don't see anybody I would use like as a one-off. But I don't mind if you want to take a shot at stacking the Mets as opposed to maybe building differently and stacking the Mets, on not cheap. They're not like super cheap, but they're all they're all mid-tier priced, and Arrieta is really, really bad at this point of his career. So that's where I'm at with this game. I don't have any interest particularly. I think that you can make a great argument. Chris Bryant is the same thing with Soto. Like Chris Bryant versus a lefty is always good news. Patrick Wisdom, but they priced him up. I think you want to maybe look at these plays on FanDuel a little bit more. But overall, I don't think I'm stacking Chicago. I definitely have some thoughts of stacking the Mets. And I especially like I mentioned, I like Lindor a lot today. I think he's my favorite pivot off of Tatis at shortstop.
Yeah, I'm going to throw in something which is going to be just kind of ugly, but I just, if this ownership stands and my builds stand, I'm going to have a little bit of David Peterson today.
Okay.
At at SP2, just as a function of ownership. There's a couple of other SP2s that are going to get more ownership. When I say SP2s, I'm regarding Glasnow and Lynn as SP1s just because like their price, right? Even I mean like kind of maybe I say cheaper pitchers, right? So cheaper pitchers, they're others going to be a little, higher owned, I imagine, and look, Peterson's obviously struggled, at times, and I guess recently he struggled more than not. But I don't know. He's got a couple. He still has a couple of good outings on his resume here. He's got 1, 2, 3 of his 8 outings will take. And that's not the greatest, but not the worst.
Yeah.
And if he does well, he could 90 pitches or whatever. It's definitely speculative, but he's going to be in my pitcher's pool.
Yeah, I get it, especially without Baez in this lineup. You definitely have like a little bit of a softer lineup. The only thing that worries me is the Cubs. There are a couple guys that, other than you get some strikeouts, but you also have a lot of power against lefties. So it's just sort of a trade-off, but I definitely get the idea of playing Peterson here. I'm not sure where I stand with that. I'm going to try and jam in the best pitchers if I can. There's usually enough value to do it, but we do have Coors on the slate. So I think Peterson is a guy who you definitely can consider in the mid-tier. Do you have interest in the Mets against Arrieta?
I didn't, but I could be, but when you were talking through it, I just like eyeballed, like you said. I mean, Lindor at 4,200 is just kind of by eye test too cheap. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'll definitely take another look at the Mets a little later, probably.
Yeah, Jake Arrieta one of the highest home run per inning of any pitcher in baseball, and especially struggled with lefties, but he struggled with righty power as well. So Lindor and Alonso, maybe again, it's not a stack you look at and you go, oh, I need to stack this team. I love this stack. But it is a great spot for them. So Dominic Smith, Francisco Lindor, those would be the main guys along with Alonso. But I don't know if I'm fully gonna commit to a Met stack on this slate.
Okay.
So let's talk about. Go ahead.
Yeah, part of the reason I did well yesterday is all I will say is, oh my God, those Blue Jays can hit.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
I don't know if you saw yesterday, but they just like one home run after another. It was just freaking craziness.
Like my Dodgers on Friday. By the way, how did I call out the Dodgers? I had my 3 stacks just completely go nuts on Friday.
And you didn't cash, right?
I made no money. I made no money on it.
Yeah.
But it was the right guys even in the lineups. Just was my pitching, and you needed like 500 points to win on Friday. So
yeah.
Anyway, So the Tampa Boston situation is. This is like a really interesting thing, but I think that I'm surprised that the run total is higher for Tampa than it is for
Toronto,
higher for Boston than it is for Toronto. I would absolutely bet if I was like betting baseball, which I don't like betting regular season baseball games because it's too fluky. But I do think this is I like Toronto a ton here. But the problem is the prices. So you're sort of looking at them as a pivot stack from Coors. It's really hard to play them with Coors unless you find some pitcher that you like. And I think that maybe it's more of a one-off thing, and it always starts with the same guy, which is Vlad for me, who I think is I posted a little poll. I think that the best 4 hitters in baseball are pretty apparent at this point, and I include Trout still, even though he's not playing right now. But I think Vlad is right at the top of the list. He's certainly one of the best 4 hitters in baseball, and honestly, 5.5 for him actually I feel like it's affordable and cheap. And my only issue with him, he's such a good hitter. He walks so much, which is a great thing for a real life hitter. Not great for DFS. I mean, even what was he yesterday? 1 for 2 with a couple walks, a hit by pitch, and a stolen base and a home run. He does everything. I love Vlad today. He's one of my favorite one-offs on the slate. It's hard to get to him when you play Coors stack, so he's going to be lower owned than usual. And then you get Bichette, and then you have the reasonably priced Teoscar and Grichuk, along with Biggio should be back in there. So. I do like the Toronto stack quite a bit today.
The only guys, by the way, it was really funny that Toronto didn't beat the crap out of yesterday was Marvin Gonzalez, who came into the 8th, and Christian Arroyo came into the 9th. Those are the only guys they didn't hit. Everybody else they just had to.
I think by then they had mostly subbed out their starters too, right?
They you know what? I'm well aware.
Yeah.
They needed a couple more swipes. I might see Marvin Gonzalez coming, woo, and then I'm like, wait, that's not Marcus Semien. That looks like Joe Panic.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's right. Exactly. That's what ends up happening with this team.
Yeah.
They're that good. But this is a great spot. I mean, again, Eovaldi is not a guy who I don't want to say he's a bad pitcher. First of all, any game in Boston is always going to be appealing. But this Blue Jays lineup, like you were, I mean, they're no nonsense. It's funny because we always talk about the one thing about Eovaldi, he's been pretty good at limiting like hard contact early in the season but he's been getting it much harder lately. And I think this is a spot where we can maybe better than a stack though is that 2 or 3 man. And to me, it starts with Guerrero, Bichette as always. But I think Teoscar is a perfect, like, he's just really, really well priced at 4.3. So he stands out as those stand out as my favorite plays. And then I didn't really, and I always gulp when I say this, I think that you can totally make an argument for stacking Boston against a rookie pitcher. The only thing I would say is that I still believe Manoah is really good. I know he's going to have his ups and downs. And I just didn't get to Boston at these prices on this slate. The only one who I have as a priority is JD Martinez.
You know, it's really interesting. I wonder, I mean, I see that Vlad's got 25 fantasy points, like 3 games in a row. I'm sure it's happened before, but that's got to be, doesn't happen all that often, right?
No, and not, it happens more with this guy.
Yeah.
He's the man. Like, you get so much upside just with, he's the guy, like if you're playing cash, you always want to try and get guys like that in because the walks don't hurt. They help you then. In tournaments, they don't really help you. So that's the only issue I have with playing him as a one-off, but I still love him. How about Boston for you?
Yeah, I first of all, I'm with you on Toronto. I have them in like, the 5th or something like that. But I agree with your assessment of it. I think it's perfect. It's that it's just kind of a pure pivot stack. You know what I mean? And I think that's fair. I think like between them, the Dodgers, you know what I mean? Like, I think that those are very similar plays. And I'm into that. I didn't quite get to Boston though. I'm kind of with you. I would almost, I mean, not today, but I would almost take a shot on Manoah, but not now. You know what I mean? Like I think we could take him in a better matchup. You know what I mean? And still not get that high owned because he hasn't done much since his first start. I think you give him another bad one, and then you can get him against Detroit, and he'll be owned, but not like through roof owned or something like that.
Yeah, I actually think that he is in my player pool as of right now. I like the gamble on the upside of this guy. His first start, he goes out to Yankee Stadium and put up 29 fantasy points. He's 8,200. He's got elite stuff. This is not a fun lineup to face, and we'll see about who actually makes the Red Sox lineup today. But like, it's not a fun lineup to face. But you look at the bottom of the order with Arroyo, Dahlbeck, Vasquez, even. Renfroe, but especially Renfroe, Arroyo, and Dahlbeck. There's huge strikeout upside here. Even JD Martinez strikes out a ton too. So it is kind of interesting. It's weird to think about a pitcher on this kind of slate with a 5-run total, but I do think that Manoah is definitely a guy who if I was playing 150, he'd be in at least 10 to 20% of my lineups basically every time he starts because I think he's got the upside.
Yeah, I consider Boston as similar. They're kind of like trolling like the bottom of the stacks I'm willing to play. Like these next 2 teams, like Baltimore and Cleveland, kind of in that range for me also. Like I might get to some Baltimore and some Cleveland. You know what I mean? Just because I just kind of made my peace with that. I'm probably just going to fade San Diego. It's just the way it's going to be, right?
Right.
So with that said, I mean, I kind of want it. If San Diego doesn't really get there, I'd like to get it right. So I would like to probably spread around a little bit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't want to just play one team and then if Colorado busts and be not. It's hard enough to get. It's hard enough to get San Diego to bust. If they do bust, I kind of want to win. You know what I mean? I kind of want to make sure. So I am going to spread around a little bit. I think Baltimore and Cleveland definitely fall within that range for me. They're not going to be priorities, but kind of like both of them a little bit. I don't like much of either of the pitchers. Where are you with Cleveland, Baltimore as hitting options or any of these pitchers?
I think we still have a question mark of who's going to actually pitch here, but with Baltimore, that's always like, I want to play everybody against Baltimore all the time. And Cleveland stacking when they're going to be chalky is something I never feel quite comfortable with because I don't love the lineup outside of Jose Ramirez. But you do get great prices in this game. So I'll just rattle off some of the really well-priced guys. Ahmed Rosario and Eddie Rosario and Bobby Bradley, they raised his price a little bit, but then Harold Ramirez is 2.8. There's a lot of individual, cheap bats that I'm interested in. You've got Santander at 3K on the other side, Mountcastle at 3.2. Cedric Mullins, even at 3.5, is reasonable, and Austin Hayes at 2.8, along with Freddie Galvis. Like, there's just a bunch of guys who are really underpriced, and I'm always interested to see where they end up putting Severino in the lineup. You might see him 6th, you might see him 9th. You don't really know what you're going to get from this Baltimore team entirely. I don't love either of these lineups in general, but I think that on this slate, they make for great value plays. So you're looking at, in my opinion, I just got it circled here, Baltimore and Cleveland for value.
When I was, you want to move back?
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was doing my, again, the video of the breakdown of this slate, I kept coming back to a couple of Milwaukee guys just to kind of fill things out. I mean, FanDuel mostly, but maybe a little bit of DraftKings also. I don't know if I'm going to make them a big priority, but I was getting to the usual cheaper, like Garcia just always looks like a good play.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Yelich and what's his name, Narvaez, and the other one, Vogelbach. So I think Milwaukee's kind of an okay, again, just an okay team if you're spreading around. I'm not going to just go crazy on them, but I think they're definitely in play. I didn't quite get to Cincinnati. Every time I say that, they get 15 runs. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, they get 15 runs, but I have to say, most of those games are in Cincinnati when they get 15 runs.
Okay, fair enough.
Milwaukee. Did you get that?
No, I don't even get that.
Okay.
I just need to shut it up. All right. Yeah, so I don't like either the pitching here, and I like a little bit of the Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's I was looking at Milwaukee. The problem I'm having with them is that I don't see anybody that I'm desperate to play individually. And they priced Yelich up to 6.2 now, which he's back in business, but I don't think I can quite get to these guys today. And it's a good spot. All the things make sense. You got a low strikeout pitcher against a team that's biggest problem is strikeouts. Maybe you get a lower owned Vogelbach because of something like that, because he's priced up to 4K now. But I actually do sort of like the matchup for some of these Cincinnati guys. I just think that, again, it's a lot of games in this slate. I don't want to love everybody. I just would say that Suarez, I'm just going to keep playing against lefties, even batting further down in the lineup. And Nick Castellanos has been one of the best 5 hitters in baseball this season. Those are the guys who stood out for me.
Do you have any umpire data on the Tampa-Chicago game?
I don't have it yet. I think we'll probably get it later because it's a new start to the series, so it usually takes till the afternoon to actually get it updated.
Okay, because I mean, for my money and everybody's money, I mean, these are probably the top 2 pitchers, and they're going against each other. So I think that when you have such, they're both coming. Look, you're not going to get wins out of both of them, right? And just make sure that you don't get some terrible umpire,
right?
Because they are both in the same game. So I like both of them. They both rate really, really strong for me. I guess Glasnow is going to be the higher owned guy, and Lynn's got the better matchup.
Right.
So I don't know. I like both of them. They're top plays for me. I could certainly put 2 of them together. If you put 2 of them together, you're not playing Coors. I can tell you that. But I'm probably gonna. I'm not saying probably because I'm gonna have like a couple of double punt lineups, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But I'll probably have one of these guys in most of them. It just kind of makes sense. So I think I said it perfectly with respect to Glasnow's better, but he's basically a better team. So better hitting team.
Right.
You have any preference between these two? Any you want to fade either of them? Where are you at with these guys?
I like both of them a lot. It'll depend. I mean, on whether or not, again, like you said, the pitcher, the umpire, and I just don't see a whole lot of we've had 2 starts for Glasnow all season that weren't below 25 fantasy points, and 3 for Lance Lynn. Yeah. These guys have been awesome. Their projections, I think, are under what they should be. I know that the White Sox and the Rays too, by the way, as always, underrated team, underrated lineup. They do strike out, but I side with Glasnow ahead of Lynn. I like both of them a lot, but I'm just a little bit higher on Glasnow, even though I do think you can play them both together, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just think that maybe there's another route we can go and try and get some more bats in. I just don't know that. Again, on DraftKings and on FanDuel, I'm always going to pay up for pitcher. But on DraftKings, it's been easy enough with some of the value we've had to try and squeeze guys in. It's just today we happen to have really expensive bats in a really good hitting spot. So it's going to depend on how you build. But I do like Glasnow. He's my main pitcher as of right now. And no hitting for me on either side. I think that you're just don't need to do that on this slate. Here comes your punt, right? Next game, one of them?
No, actually.
Oh, interesting. The first time you haven't been on our guy.
No, if anything, it would be Keller.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But no, what I was going to say is, I mean, you went on a speech the other day about, giving out home run calls, that like, can't give out home run. You can't say he's definitely getting a home run, but Salvador Perez is hitting a freaking home run off Matt Boyd. It's just happening. It's a freaking lock. Let's put it out. Maybe about honestly probably about 25%, whatever it is. But
that seems fair.
Yeah, I think Boyd's gonna get a rock. I'm not playing him. If anything, I'm gonna play Kansas City. More so on FanDuel, I suppose, but they're a decent stack for me on, or different, decent team for me to target on DraftKings also. And Perez, I don't know if Solaire's hurt or whatever, but with Merrifield and usual cats for Kansas City, and Detroit as usual rates to be a pretty good value stack actually, or value players. So if you didn't like the idea of stacking, playing Pittsburgh as kind of like as to go along with San Diego, you could certainly make the case for the Pittsburgh guys. Excuse me, Detroit guys. That being, I have Willie Castro, Grossman, Mazzara, Harold Castro, Miggy, whatever. So again, you want to play these guys alongside with Padres, you can do that also.
Yeah, and my only issue with the Detroit thing is that I actually think that Brad Keller is like a decent pitcher.
Yeah, he is.
Like you mentioned, and a decent real life pitcher, not a guy we like for fantasy because he doesn't really strike anybody out.
Yeah.
But at 6.4, he's definitely on like the list. If you're going to make a list of guys, Keller and Boyd are both on it for me. But I would tend to agree with you. And we have some serious BVP here because Matt Boyd has pitched against KC quite a bit in his past. The interesting thing is you've got Whit Merrifield who's 25 for 56 off of them, which is pretty incredible.
He's actually got out 30 times. That's like amazing.
But he's hitting 450 off of them, but no home runs. Kind of interesting. And something that, again, on a pretty reasonable 56 at-bats is a pretty large sample size.
Right.
To have 0 home runs is a little bit something that I would probably just stay away from at their prices. I agree with you. Salvador Perez is a great matchup. He hasn't hit him particularly well in the past, but it doesn't bother me at all. Salvador Perez has become one of the better hitters in baseball this season, and I don't mind Hunter Dozier either. Hunter Dozier is the one who actually would profile the best against Boyd for me, but I'm just not getting to the Detroit bats personally.
Oh, Soler is back and he's 3K.
Soler and Dozier, yeah, those are the two that stood out for me. Actually, I should have mentioned Soler as well.
This guy's going to have to be really popular, I think.
I don't know if they will be though. It's going to be interesting to see actually because it's not like they're not minimum. They never end up really owned. I mean, Soler, every time we start a show and we say, oh, you might be owned today because he's this price or whatever.
He never is, right?
Never owned. Always seems to hit a home run when I play him at 2.8K or 3K or whatever he is now.
Right.
So I'm into that a little bit. You have a huge run total here, good hitting weather in KC. So I do think it's interesting, but I'm just finding myself personally more on the KC side of it, which is weird because I also have a little bit of interest in Boyd, but mostly it's going to be KC bats for me in this one. I agree with you about Sal Perez.
What do you think about, I guess he's going to be chalky sort of, Adam Wainwright in the next game?
That's something I feel a little uncomfortable with, but I agree with you. He should be owned somewhat. It's Miami, but we've seen Miami get to a few guys lately. I never like to play. I don't want to play a chalky Adam Wainwright, but he's reasonably priced. He's been good this year, and he's playing Miami. That's pretty much what you've got going for you. It's nothing to write home about, nothing crazy. I would just say Miami's lineup is better at this point of the season than it's been all season long. So that's the only counter to it. And then I do think St. Louis, never a team anybody plays ever. But Goldschmidt at his price is a guy you should be probably thinking about in all formats today. Just an awesome lefty hitter for his whole career. Tyler O'Neill as well. But particularly Goldie is the one who stands out as being an awesome play at 4K for me.
Only because you mentioned some St. Louis guys. The top rated guy I have for St. Louis is actually
Dylan Carlson.
Dylan Carlson.
Yep.
So all those guys that Bobby mentioned, you flick in Carlson too if you want to. Again, spread around a little bit. I think St. Louis is pretty good. I will also say that. I want to ask you this: you think Wainwright's a guy that they're gonna let roll? I mean, because he's coming up as a good play on FanDuel. So you think that he's gonna get okay?
So guys like that. I mean, we talked about it a little bit with Kershaw on Friday. Like, Kershaw's a much better pitcher, obviously, than Adam Wainwright is.
I'm not comparing those.
But no. But I'm just saying. But at the same time, there's like, I mean, you look at his outings. He's had what, 6 starts out of his last 8 have been over 7 innings. That's absolutely a guy you can consider on FanDuel. I don't know that you're going to need to do it. I would probably just find the money to find a way to play Glasnow or Lynn. But I think that, again, they both, he has better win equity than they do, and those 6 extra points matter. And this is a game where if they get out to a lead, I do expect them to let him roll. Not a guy. Also, another thing I like about Wainwright, not a guy they pinch hit for very often because he handles the bat reasonably well. So, guy, in the National League, I'm always looking at that on these slates. But I do think Wainwright is definitely on the list. It just feels weird to pay a lot for him when we've got Lynn at 1,100 more. I know it's a difference, but it's not like he's 6K Wainwright. He's 8,800 on DraftKings, 8K on FanDuel. But I do like him. He definitely projects really, really well today. And I like the St. Louis bats, but it's mostly just going to be Goldschmidt and O'Neill. Goldschmidt, O'Neill, and Carlson are the other ones I'm really focused on. You can always play Arenado against the lefty as well, but I think those ones are the best ones. And Tommy Edman, O'Neill, Goldschmidt, Carlson are my favorites.
All right. So San Diego, Colorado. I mean, I'm gonna say this. So the pitcher for Colorado has had 20 fantasy points in his last game, 27 fantasy points the game before that, 31 fantasy points 2 games before that, 22 fantasy points the game before that, and San Diego is going to be 100% owned. So I get it. It's Coors and all that stuff. I'm just not doing it. That's best I can describe it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you something else. And I've been following this. Is Danielson Lamet? I'm just looking at the pitch counts from 37, 40, 64, 72, 78. As I mentioned, going into his last start here, I mean, they're ramping him up or whatever it is. And I don't particularly feel like playing Colorado either if they're going to be owned. If not, I mean, I much prefer Colorado, especially on FanDuel, than San Diego with respect to playing GPPs. So that's kind of where I'm at. San Diego obviously they're a good hitting team and they're in the best hitter's park in baseball. So for me to say that they're terrible is stupid. But I think I might be in my hand builds. I might end up doing kind of what Bobby recommends in situations like this. I don't know if he's going to recommend in this situation, but instead of like trying to stack them, just pick one guy or 1 or 2 guys maybe from this game and get exposure that way rather than selling out on an incredibly chalky stat.
Yeah, it's going to be very chalky, and Gomber is a good pitcher, but San Diego is just absolutely awesome. I would just say, like, if Lamet, give him a couple more starts, I think, before we start using him. I actually would consider him under normal circumstances at this price in this situation against this Colorado team. But I'm not going to do it on this slate, especially with his pitch count still ramping up. I don't think he's quite there yet. I do think that the priority plays in this game are Ryan McMahon. On the Colorado side, it's Ryan McMahon and Trevor Story, who are both just way too cheap. And Tatis on the other side is Tatis. I don't know what else to say about him. Tatis and Machado are 2 of the best plays on the slate. And you've got really expensive guys elsewhere. I will probably try to find a way to fade it as much as possible, with including just those bats that I mentioned.
Yep.
But it is, again, there's obviously nothing wrong with stacking. If you think ownership's not going to be there, go ahead and play it. But I just can't see how on this slate that's not going to be crazy ownership.
You can give me Tommy Pham against the lefty. That'd be that's probably a good play.
Yeah, but again though, you're paying for it though. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, Angels, Oakland. These are guys I usually kind of try to play, but I'm just not today because I guess because of price. Are Bundy and Minaya. I'm just not gonna get to either of them, and however, they're good enough where I'm not gonna get to the hitting side of it either. Where are you with these guys?
Boy, this is a tough one for me. I'm not really getting to the hitting, and I'm very interested in both pitchers. I don't know that I'm going to be able to get there on the pricing for Minaya, although I think it's deserved where he's at. Bundy has really struggled lately. I would sort of like to take that flyer and take a shot against an Oakland team that I believe in. The Oakland, they're good. They have a good offense. They do strike out. They have strikeouts and plenty of strikeouts in the lineup. And Bundy is, a high risk, high reward pitcher in general. I definitely think Bundy is going to be high on my middle tier list. He's just at the price where I want to play him, but I don't need to play him. He's really struggled this year. But again, we've seen the upside for this guy a million times in the past. So it's one I probably am going to have to answer more later on today because it's just I feel like they're both just, again, don't like the hitting, but both pitchers are good enough to where, especially Bundy, I think is affordable enough to play.
Okay, we got to get moving because we got to be at this other thing pretty soon. Yep. All right. San Francisco, Arizona. I didn't get to Alex Wood, and I'm a little bit nervous that I didn't. That's the best. I'm not that nervous. He's going against San Francisco. No, I don't need any of that. So I had this game as a cross-off. Let me know. What do you think?
I do like Alex Wood. That's all I would. Arizona struggled with both lefties and righties, but especially lefties this year. So in San Francisco, 3.4 run total for Arizona. So Alex Wood is on my list, but other than that, it's the game's a cross-off for me.
Philly Dodgers is not a cross-off for me with respect to the Dodgers. I actually like them quite a bit as I guess you described it perfectly on this slate. It's just kind of like a straight pivot stack. I think they could put up the same amount of fantasy points as San Diego at similar prices, but a little bit lower owned. I like them a little bit more on FanDuel as usual than on DK, but I definitely like the Dodgers, and I didn't get to either pitcher.
Yeah, I love the Dodgers. If I'm going to try and fade most of the, again, I'll play some individual bats from the other game, but if I'm going to fade most of Coors, the Dodgers certainly stand out as, the offense is like it's back. We've got everybody going. I'm just going to keep repeating this, but Gavin Lux is going, like, people are going to know this man's name very soon. He's one of the more underrated hitters in baseball and probably will be batting near the top of the order today. But Lux, Bellinger, Betts, and we don't have Muncy anymore, but you probably get Beatty, but he's not as cheap as he used to be. I think it's really like Betts, Bellinger, Turner, Lux are my favorites, and everybody else is fine as a plug-in for a stack. That's where I'm at.
Okay, so I want to wrap this one up quick, but I don't want to do too quick without emphasizing this last game. So Minnesota, Seattle, I have a question. Are we expected to get full run out of Maeda for this game?
I need to dig in a little bit deeper on that because he hasn't pitched in a while, so I would guess that we probably aren't. I still think I'm inclined to probably play him.
Yeah, so for me, kill me, but my two of my best plays are from this game. I like Maeda at 7,400, and I really want to play Marco Gonzalez at 6K.
I like him. That's what I was going to say. But maybe we should be talking about, yeah, exactly. Same thing.
Okay, good. All right. I'm glad I got the approval. Glad I didn't get I get it, but I'm glad that you're into that a little bit. All right, good.
Yeah.
Pairing them. I'm going to pair him some with Glasnow, some with Lynn, and I'm going to pair him some with other crap also, maybe.
Maeda, like you can play both of these.
Yeah, exactly. But I definitely wouldn't play Maeda unless I got some confirmation that he was going to get at least something resembling full run. But I don't like either the hitting from this team, but I definitely like Marco Gonzalez at 6K. And hopefully I get to but I think if Maeda gets full run, I think he's going to be probably really chalky.
Yep. I'm curious where the ownership is going to end up on him, because I do think that he is. It would not surprise any of us, even if he just goes 5 innings and strikes out 8. That's right. It's well within his range, even if he only has 75 pitches or 80 pitches. Like, I actually think I would play him even if he is on a somewhat of a pitch count that's anywhere above 75. Is probably 75 to 85. If he's in that range, which he generally is when he pitches, I'm definitely interested against the Seattle team. So also another one that I really want to see who the umpire is later on, which we don't have yet. So that will probably determine how much interest I do stick with in this game. And I'm just going to mention again, in the same fashion of, these guys are going to be low owned and they're monsters against lefties. Josh Donaldson's on fire, always hit lefties well, but Nelson Cruz against the lefty, unowned or low owned, I think is just always a terrific play. It doesn't really matter what stadium he's in. He's got immense power. So that's all I have from this game, but I do mostly side with the pitching.
By the time we get to the live thing, we'll have more information on Maeda. Sorry, we don't have time to really go over everything. That's my bad for kibitzing with Bobby before.
No.
All right. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah.
And we'll
see you at the top of the leaderboards tonight. Good luck, everybody.
So we'll do the